All right, so if you're like most people, you probably have a drawer somewhere, maybe a junk drawer, and it's likely got some of those standard zinc-carbon batteries in it, the cheap gray ones. Oh yeah, totally ubiquitous for remote controls, cheap toys, that kind of thing. Exactly. And when they die, well, usually they just end up in the bin, right? We treat them like, I don't know, basically worthless trash. Which is honestly a huge mistake. Calling them low value misses the point entirely. We are literally throwing away, significant metal assets. Really? What's actually in them? Well, when you break down a spent one, you're looking at roughly 28% zinc and, maybe 26% manganese by mass. That's a lot of material we really shouldn't be putting in the landfills. Wow, okay, that changes things. So our mission today is to really dig into some research that, well, it completely flips the script on that household waste, right? This study shows we can actually take that spent battery gunk, recover the manganese dioxide, the MnO2, and use it to build high-performance supercapacitors. Yeah, think cutting-edge energy storage, fast charging, high power, built from something you probably, tossed out last week without a second thought. It sounds like the ultimate upcycling story, taking waste and turning it into something advanced. Exactly. We're taking a discharged product, refining its components chemically, and creating a material that isn't just, usable, but might actually be better than materials made from scratch. So they're focusing on the MnO2 from the black paste inside the cathode. That's the stuff. In a fresh battery, it's just, simple MnO2 powder. But this recovery process, it actually reshapes the MnO2 into a structure much more suited for the rapid demands of a supercapacitor. Okay, let's get into that. Let's unpack this recovery process. Now, when it comes to recycling metals from batteries, I gather there are sort of two main ways industry does it: pyrometallurgy and hydrometallurgy. That's right, pyro and hydro. Pyrometallurgy, it involves high heat. It sounds simpler in a way. Like, you just burn everything. That's kind of the appeal, yeah. It's often the industry standard because you can just chuck whole batteries into a furnace. The heat volatilizes the metals, makes them easier to separate later. It's quick, no need to dismantle stuff first. Okay, simpler up front maybe. But this research we're looking at, they went with the other one, hydrometallurgy. So if the heat method is easier, why pick the more complex chemical route? Well, hydro is definitely more labor-intensive. You have to dismantle the batteries, do some pre-treatment, but it's known for having two big advantages, which are, first, really efficient metal recovery. You get more of the good stuff back, less ends up as waste. And second, it uses significantly less energy overall, which, makes it much greener. Okay, that makes sense. So let's walk through their specific recipe then. How did they get this pure MnO2 out? First step. Right, first they collect that black cathode paste. They dry it, grind it up into a powder, and then give it a good rinse. Just with water? Yeah, plain deionized water. That first wash is really crucial, actually. It flushes out leftover electrolyte, which is mostly ammonium chloride. You need a clean starting point before you bring in the stronger chemicals. Right, get rid of the contaminants. So once it's clean, then comes the main part, solution leaching. They use sulfuric acid and oxalic acid. Exactly, leaching is basically using a solvent, in this case the acids, to dissolve the valuable metals out of that solid paste and pull them into a liquid solution. What do the two different acids do? So the sulfuric acid does the main dissolving work on the various manganese oxides left in the paste, but the oxalic acid, that acts as a reducing agent. It helps convert all those different manganese forms into one consistent soluble form, manganese sulfate. Makes the next step cleaner. Okay, so now they have this liquid, this soup basically, rich in dissolved manganese. The final step involves electricity, right? Electrowinning. That's it, electrowinning. Yeah. They filter the manganese sulfate solution first, get rid of any solids left, and then they apply an electric current across electrodes submerged in it. And that pulls the manganese out. It converts it back into solid manganese dioxide, MnO2. It's a controlled oxidation process. There's a little intermediate step where manganese-3 forms, but that quickly undergoes something called disproportionation. Disproportionation? Yeah, it's like a rapid self-balancing reaction. It immediately makes that manganese-3 turn into the desired MnO2, which forms as a dark solid, a precipitate right there on the electrode, and that dark stuff is the purified, recovered MnO2. Okay, so we've got our recovered MnO2, but, in material science, the structure is everything. Yeah. What did the analysis show about this stuff they made from, battery waste? The characterization was key. They used X-ray analysis, XRD, and it confirmed the material was the bernicite phase of MnO2. Bernicite, what's that like? It's a layered structure, kind of like stacks of incredibly thin microscopic sheets. Yeah, and the individual crystal grains, the crystallite size was super small, just 5 nanometers, tiny. Okay, small crystals, layered structure, but you said earlier the shape was important. This is where it gets really interesting, right? What did the electron microscope pictures show? Yeah, the FESEM images were pretty amazing. They didn't just get powder. The MnO2 actually formed this really intricate 3D nanostructure. They called it a nanoflower morphology. Nanoflower, like, petals? Made of those sheets? Sort of, yeah. Imagine, like, a tiny flower where the petals are made of those super thin nanosheets all clustered together. Okay, that sounds cool, but why does that specific nanoflower shape actually matter more than if it was just, say, a fine powder? Right. It's not just about looking nice. It comes down to surface area and access. For energy storage, especially something fast like a supercapacitor, you need the electrolyte ions, the charge carriers, to be able to reach the electrode material easily and quickly. And the nanoflower helps that? Massively. A dense powder, even a nanowire, has a limited surface exposed, but this nanoflower structure, with all those open sheets, creates this huge internal network of pores and, just tons of external surface area. So the ions can get in and out faster? Why recycled MnO2 over ruthenium? While materials like hydrated ruthenium oxide offer superior capacitance, up to 1585 Fg, they are prohibitively expensive and toxic. For practical, widespread, and affordable manufacturing, manganese dioxide MnO2 derived from old batteries is abundant, low-cost, and environmentally friendly. MnO2 performs well due to pseudocapacitance, not just physical charge storage, electric double-layer capacitance. Performance payoff, better than pure. The core performance metric, the specific capacitance, was measured at an average of 294 Fg at a 10 mVus scan rate. Astonishingly, this value outperformed MnO2 synthesized from pristine, chemically pure materials, which typically report values around 237 Fg. This unexpected superiority suggests that the optimized hydrometallurgical recovery process, especially the electrowinning step, might be better at creating the ideal, highly porous nanoflower structure than typical lab synthesis methods. The recycling process itself drove the superior result: stability and speed rate capability. The recycled material showed excellent rate capability. maintaining good capacitance even when current density was drastically increased from 1 Ag up to 5 Ag. Cycling life. The material was robust, retaining about 88% of its initial capacitance after 900 cycles, with the initial slight drop likely due to the nanoflower structure settling in. The circular economy shift. This research establishes a viable, potentially advantageous, full-circle economy for spent zinc-carbon batteries. The recycling approach not only recovered MnO2, but did so in a way that resulted in a superior nanoflower structure. This performance edge, particularly the incredibly low time constant, fundamentally shifts the value proposition. If turning waste into a genuinely high-performance component is possible, the economics of large-scale battery recycling, which historically have been challenging, become much more compelling. Waste is no longer just a regulatory burden, it's a valuable feedstock for superior technology. That was the breakdown of the supercapacitor research. Would you like me to elaborate on the concept of pseudocapacitance, or perhaps the details of the hydrometallurgical process?